The sharing economy is not a new idea. Simply put, it's when you rent or borrow something rather than buy it, and that thing could be a service or a product. One of the oldest examples of the sharing economy that I can think of is the public library. Rather than buy books, you can borrow them. Public libraries in the United States have been around almost as long as the United States itself. Today, there are many examples of the sharing economy. There's public transit and share rides like Uber and Lyft for those that don't have cars or don't want to use their cars. Alongside that, there are bike rentals like City Bike for those that only ride a bike once in a blue moon or ride a bike often but don't want to deal with the storage and maintenance of one. There's also Rent the Runway for when you need a fancy dress but you'll only wear once. Gyms are another overlooked great example. You don't need your own lifting platform or swimming pool to exercise regularly. You can just rent these things by having a membership. And when you zoom in on a high-density city like New York, public parks, playgrounds, and dog parks replace having to need your own backyard. One stereotypically shared commodity in New York is the laundromat. Lots of buildings in New York are old and can't have laundry units installed in every unit. You would think newer buildings would be designed to have individual laundry units. Surprisingly, a lot of the newer buildings do not have individual washer and dryer units. Believe it or not everybody wants them. One, it takes up living space. Two, you can do multiple loads at once if you had a laundry facility. And three, this is more for maintenance purposes, but it's easy to maintain the utilities with all the laundry units in one area of the building. But I'm not in this camp of not wanting my own washer and dryer unit. If I could, I would jump on that opportunity in a heartbeat. And because of New York's high rent, the city is known to have a roommate culture, which in a way is sort of part of the sharing economy. Not only are you renting a place rather than buying it, but you're also sharing the rent with somebody else. Needless to say, the sharing economy is thriving in New York. And because of the sharing economy, it allows people to live a fuller life even though they're living in a small apartment. But you don't have to live in New York to participate in the sharing economy. Everywhere across the United States, people are coming up with new ways to share. Think Airbnb for accommodations, Nuuly for clothes, and Lime for micromobility. But the idea of borrowing instead of owning can be hard on some Americans because we value convenience above many things. The biggest example is if you've been driving most of your life, the idea of letting go of your car is like letting go of one of your arms. If you've been driving since you were 16 years old in a culture where you need a car to get everywhere you need to be, that car is going to be a part of who you are. Change is intimidating, but there are advantages to the sharing economy, and it's because of these advantages that make city life unique. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to Urban Caffeine. My name is Thea, and you're watching a channel that talks about urban life, urbanism, public transit. If you like these topics, make sure you're subscribed and you hit that like button so that YouTube knows to share this type of video with other like-minded individuals. Living in a city where a lot of things are already provided through a robust sharing economy like parks, a bike sharing program, community gardens, and event spaces encourage you to live small. I personally love living in a small apartment just because it's easier to clean, it's easier to maintain. I don't overbuy on furniture, clothes, or food because where am I going to store it all? For those that are into minimalism, this is the ideal setup. People argue that buying in bulk and stocking up can save money, but this is true if you consume the product right away, like toilet paper or coffee. In a way, living small also helps you pick and choose what to buy in bulk if you're into bulk buying. Like I said, in New York, because you're living in a small space, the share economy allows you to live a fuller life because it provides you the other amenities that your small space cannot give you. To make up for a small living space, the city has a ton of cafes, shared working spaces, workshops, studios, and parks and recreational activities. Another thing too is bike ownership. Some people will probably only ride a bike once or twice a year, while others will want to bike frequently, but don't want to deal with the storage and maintenance of a bike. Plus, the possibility of your bike getting stolen when unattended. especially if you live on the 3rd floor of a building with no elevators and no bike room. I've had an electric scooter stolen once in my bike room in my building. That's a story for another day. The beauty of a bike sharing program like City Bike is you don't need to figure out storage space. On top of that, you don't have to worry about changing out flat tires and fixing gears and chains. All you have to worry about is making sure you park it correctly. But hey, a lot of people do love owning their bike and maintaining it themselves, but not everyone does. And moving on from bike ownership is the topic of many debates, which is car ownership. Living in a high-density city like New York, specifically where the subway is accessible, allows people not to have a car so they don't have to deal with the upkeep and maintenance of a car, meaning they don't have to pay for gas, insurance, and maintenance on top of figuring out parking. Parking in New York is ridiculously expensive. Depending on where you live, on average, it's about $300 a month. $300 a month is hard to swallow when a monthly unlimited on the subway is only $127. That's less than half. Without a lawn to mow or a car to maintain and possibly even a bike to maintain, living in a high-density city with a robust sharing economy can allow a person to live segments of their lives carefree. I like working in different cafes in my neighborhood. Changing your scenery helps generate fresh ideas. And these cafes help with the sharing economy by providing workspace for the community. I also regularly co-work with a couple local entrepreneurs in our local area, and the abundance of cafes allow us to do so. And in doing so, we cultivate a relationship. Because many things are communal in New York, plus the city is always looking for ways to provide community entertainment, whether it's free concerts, movie nights, and other events. Because of this, community relationship is built. Dog owners meet other dog owners in dog parks. Kids make friends with other neighborhood kids at playgrounds. And garden enthusiasts meet other garden enthusiasts at community gardens. Artists tend to share studio space as well, and that also builds its own micro-community. And it could be any hobby. For example, if you're into carpentry or woodwork, you don't have to have your own personal workshop with your own tools that you buy. Instead, you can buy a membership to a workshop that gives you access to all the tools you could possibly think of. And not only that, but there'll be other people in that workshop that you can collaborate with or just create a friendly relationship revolved around a shared hobby. By having a shared space to share hobbies with like-minded individuals, people can make acquaintances that can turn into deeper relationships. My best personal experience that I could think of with building relationship through sharing is Thanksgiving dinner. In my small apartment of 650 square feet, I host a sit-down dinner of about 10 to 12 people every year. But here's the thing, I don't have 12 plates or 12 chairs. What I end up doing is borrowing chairs and plates from my neighbors who are attending dinner. Because there's really no reason for me to own 12 plates and 12 chairs just for a once-a-year dinner. It's kind of sad that this act of lending and borrowing from your neighbor is kind of dying. The biggest element to New York's sharing economy is public transit. Instead of owning a car, people tend to share a ride through public transit. And when a person takes public transit regularly, they are forced to be more mobile. A New Yorker that regularly commutes to work, on average, walks 2 to 5 miles a day. That's a lot of walking. If you've ever read this book, staying mobile is a key factor in staying healthy. Even if you don't go to the gym often, just living in this city gives you some baseline of fitness. Because on top of walking, the city is plagued with stairs. This is unfortunate for those with wheelchairs and walkers, but accessibility is a topic for another video. The point is, the ultimate shared commodity in a dense city, which is public transit, is the same thing that keeps people mobile and not sedentary. Of course, there are other things like urban planning and policy, but public transit is a big key. And lastly, sharing and not buying reduces the need to produce more goods, which theoretically reduces the need to produce more stuff. Of course, this is not what capitalists like to hear. But on that note, there are many companies built on the sharing economy. Think companies like Zipcar, Outdoorsy, and others already mentioned. Borrowing instead of buying has general economical and environmental advantages. The sharing economy in New York works because it's dense. New York sorta needs the sharing economy to keep its density, and density is what the sharing economy thrives on. It's symbiotic. In order for public transit and share rides like Lyft and Uber to work, there needs to be enough people that use it. And in order for the city to provide community entertainment and rich parks, there needs to be enough people to indulge in them. In less populated cities, there's not gonna be a lot of Lyft and Uber drivers because there's not gonna be a lot of people that use them. Because most likely, everybody will have their own car. And these types of neighborhoods, people tend to have their own backyard, maybe their own play set, and even their own swimming pool. So it lessens the motivation to go to a public playground, dog parks, or parks in general. And on top of that, some people might have their own personal gym, workshop, or even home theater. So it's hard to build a community where a lot of things are either private or invite only. But you don't need a dense city like New York to gain the advantages of a sharing economy, like having a small footprint or building a community. The sharing economy today is becoming more common and seen everywhere. Even if you don't live in New York, you can participate in the sharing economy, like going to the library, barbecuing at the park, or just walking down Main Street. And speaking of sharing, if you like this video, make sure to share it with someone you know, because as I've always said, sharing is caring. If you would like to help this channel further, I offer Patreon and YouTube memberships. As a thank you, members get access to exclusive videos published twice a week. Check that out at patreon.com/urbancaffeine or click the join button of this channel. With that said, thank you so much for watching and happy New Yorking.